Outside, the world is vast. But here, inside the stone walls of the lighthouse, everything is steady. The ocean breathes in and out, a rhythmic pulse against the jagged rocks far below. You can hear the water, a deep, low hum that never truly stops. It is the sound of the Atlantic, ancient and patient. In the small lantern room at the top, the great glass lens rotates with a faint, mechanical click. It is a comforting sound, like the ticking of a grandfather clock in a quiet hallway. Every few seconds, a warm golden beam of light sweeps across the room, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, before moving out over the black waves. You are sitting in a heavy wooden chair near the small stove. The fire inside is low, just a collection of glowing orange embers, occasionally popping with a soft, muffled sound. The warmth wraps around your legs like a thick, wool blanket. Outside, a light mist has begun to fall. You can see the tiny droplets pressing against the thick glass panes, catching the golden light as the beam passes by. They look like tiny diamonds for a split second before vanishing back into the shadows. The wind is just a whisper today, a gentle sigh that moves around the curved edges of the tower. There is no rush here. Time doesn't move in minutes or hours. It moves in the rotation of the light and the slow retreat of the tide. You watch the rhythmic pulse of the ocean. The waves crest and fall, over and over. A hypnotic pattern that pulls at your eyelids. Deep in the stone walls, the lighthouse holds the day's warmth. The air smells faintly of salt water, aged cedar wood, and the clean scent of the rain. It is a safe place, a sturdy place. Nothing can disturb the peace of this tower. You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the rotation of the lens. Click, sweep, silence. Click, sweep, silence. Your breathing begins to slow, matching the steady pace of the sea below. The world outside is far away, lost in the mist, and all that remains is the warmth of the fire and the rhythmic heartbeat of the light. You decide to stand up from your chair, your movements slow and deliberate. The floorboards beneath your feet are made of thick oak, worn smooth by decades of keepers walking this same path. They offer a faint, comforting creak with every step. You walk toward the small kitchenette at the corner of the living quarters. The air here is cooler, away from the stove, carrying a hint of dried lavender and old parchment. You reach for a ceramic mug on the shelf. It is heavy in your hand, its surface slightly uneven from the potter's wheel. You pour some water from the iron kettle. The sound of the liquid hitting the bottom of the mug is hollow at first, then deepens as it fills. You aren't in a hurry. You watch the steam rise in thin, translucent ribbons, curling toward the ceiling before vanishing into the shadows. Holding the warm mug, you walk toward the narrow window that looks out toward the mainland. In the distance, through the shifting veil of mist, you can see a single, tiny light from a distant farmhouse. It flickers once, feels like a silent conversation between two lonely points in the dark. You wonder if someone there is looking out at your light, finding comfort in its rhythmic sweep across the horizon. You turn back and begin the slow climb up the spiral stone staircase. The walls are cool to the touch, built from massive granite blocks that have stood against a century of Atlantic storms. Your footsteps echo softly in the vertical chamber, a rhythmic tap 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 that marks your ascent. There are 52 steps to the top. You count them mentally, not because you have to, but because the numbers feel like a lullaby. 21, 22, 23. Halfway up, there is a small landing with a porthole. You stop for a moment to look out. The tide is coming in now. You can see the white foam of the waves as they break against the Dragon's Tooth, a jagged rock formation that guards the entrance to the bay. The sound of the surf is louder here, a powerful, low-frequency rumble that vibrates slightly in the stone walls. It's not a threatening sound. It's the heartbeat of the earth, steady and eternal. You continue upward. 45, 46, 47. Finally, you reach the lantern room. The air here is warmer, heated by the powerful lamp and the friction of the rotating gears. The mechanism is a masterpiece of brass and glass. You watch the giant Fresnel lens, a beautiful ribbed crystal, as it glides on its bed of polished steel. It moves with such precision that it seems to float on air. You put your hand on the brass railing. It is warm from the lamp. You watch the beam go out, a long golden finger of light, reaching miles into the darkness. It cuts through the mist, revealing the texture of the fog for a brief second before moving on. Then comes the darkness, but it isn't empty. It is a soft velvet. You slowly turn away from the hypnotic rhythm of the Fresnel lens. The brass railing slips smoothly from under your palm. The warmth of the lantern room stays behind as you begin your descent. Your movements are unhurried, almost dreamlike. You step back onto the cool granite spiral of the staircase. 47, 46, 45. The downward journey is effortless, a gentle yielding to gravity. With every step, you feel a little more grounded, a little more relaxed. The mechanical click of the great lamp fades into a soft, rhythmic whisper above you. At the 30th step, you reach a heavy oak door set deep into the curved stone wall. You reach out and press the iron latch. It gives way with a soft, drawn-out click. You push the door open, and it glides smoothly on its old brass hinges. This is the keeper's study, a small circular room built right into the thickest part of the tower. You step inside. The floor here is covered by a faded, hand-woven wool rug. It instantly absorbs the sound of your footsteps, wrapping the room in a thick acoustic blanket. You take a slow, deep breath. The room smells of old leather bindings, dried seagrass, and the faint, sweet scent of beeswax candles It is a comforting smell, a smell of history and quiet isolation. The walls are lined with curved wooden shelves, custom built by shipwrights long ago to match the shape of the lighthouse. Hundreds of logbooks, old novels, and nautical charts rest here, sleeping in the shadows. You walk toward the heavy armchair, upholstered in dark green leather. It sits in the corner, worn in all the right places, shaped by years of quiet evenings and long night watches. Beside it is a small round side table made of polished mahogany. You sink into the leather chair. It exhales a soft, muffled sigh as it takes your weight. You place your ceramic mug on the wooden table. The solid thud of the mug against the wood is satisfying, anchoring you to the present moment. Next to your mug sits an old brass oil lamp, currently unlit, and a thick, cloth-bound logbook. You reach out and trace the spine of the book with your index finger. The fabric is frayed at the edges, soft to the touch. You slowly open the cover. The pages are thick, yellow with age, and slightly stiff from decades of salty air. You run your hand over the faded ink. The handwriting is elegant, flowing in loops and curves. It feels like touching time itself. Someone sat in this exact chair 50 years ago, listening to the same ocean, writing down the weather. Outside, the rain has picked up just a little. You can hear it tapping against the single small window pane of the study. Pat, pat, pat. It is a random, irregular rhythm that contrasts beautifully with the steady heartbeat of the ocean far below. You take a slow sip from your mug. The water is perfectly warm. It soothes your throat and sends a wave of comfort down into your chest. You lean your head back against the soft leather of the chair. On the wall opposite you, a wooden pendulum clock ticks away the seconds. Tick, tock, tick, tock. It is a slow, lazy sound. The clock is old, and its mechanism is tired, but it keeps a steady pace, reminding you that there is nowhere else you need to be. The room is dimly lit, illuminated only by the ambient glow filtering down from the staircase. Shadows stretch and bend slightly as the beam of the main light passes through the fog outside, casting a faint, sweeping illumination that enters the small window every 15 seconds. Your muscles sink deeper into the upholstery. The tension in your neck and shoulders begins to dissolve, melting away like snow on warm ground. Your arms feel heavy, resting completely relaxed on the armrests. You focus on the sound of your own breathing. It synchronizes with the distant, muffled crash of the waves against the Dragon's Tooth rocks. Breathe in. The wave pulls back. Breathe out. The wave crashes softly. Your eyelids flutter, heavy with the weight of the night. You let them close. The darkness behind your eyes is warm and safe. You are surrounded by solid stone, protected from the wind and the rain. Nothing can reach you here. You sink deeper into the chair, deeper into the quiet, deeper into the peace of the lighthouse. seems to pull at your limbs, making them feel heavy and still. You reach to the side of the leather chair, where a thick and knitted wool blanket is folded neatly. You pull it over your lap. The wool is coarse but comforting, holding the faint scent of the sea air and old wood smoke. It settles over you like a gentle weight, anchoring you even deeper into the cushions. You look over at the small cast iron stove in the center of the room. A tiny sliver of orange light escapes from the air vent, flickering rhythmically. You can hear the wood shifting inside, a soft, metallic clink, followed by a muffled hum as a log settles into the ash. The heat it radiates is steady and dry, a perfect shield against the damp mist pressing against the stone walls outside. You decide it's time for a warm drink to settle the night. You stand up slowly, feeling the blood move through your relaxed muscles. The blanket slides off with a soft shh sound against the leather. You walk toward the tiny kitchenette, a small alcove carved into the curve of the tower. On the counter sits a collection of tin canisters. You pick one up. It's painted a deep forest green, with the paint slightly chipped around the lid. You pry it open, and the sharp, clean scent of dried peppermint fills the air. It's a bright, refreshing smell that quickly softens as it mixes with the ambient aroma of the lighthouse. You place a small copper kettle on the stove. The metal is cool at first, but you watch as the heat begins to transform it. Soon, a very faint, low-pitched hum begins to rise from the water inside. It's a tiny vibration that grows into a steady, singing whistle. It's a lonely but friendly sound, a small sign of life in the quiet tower. While the water heats, you lean against the counter and look out the small porthole window. The tide has fully turned now. The dragon's tooth rocks are almost entirely submerged, with only their jagged tips visible through the white foam of the waves. The ocean looks like a vast, moving desert of charcoal and silver. You watch a single wave form far out in the darkness. It's a long, dark line that slowly grows taller as it approaches the shore. You track its progress, counting the seconds. 1, 2, 3, and then it crests. The white spray catches the sweeping light of the lighthouse for a fraction of a second, glowing like liquid neon, before it crashes into the base of the tower with a deep, resonant boom that you feel in the soles of your feet. The sound is not startling. It is a lullaby of power, a reminder that you are safe inside this immovable pillar of granite. The tower doesn't even tremble. It simply watches the sea, as it has done for 100 years. The kettle begins to hiss more urgently. You lift it from the heat, the handle warm in your grip. You pour the steaming water over the peppermint leaves. The sound is a sharp, splashing hiss that gradually turns into a soft, bubbling gurgle as the mug fills. The steam rises in thick white clouds, momentarily blurring your vision, making the room feel soft and out of focus. You take your mug and return to the leather chair. You tuck the wool blanket back around your legs, feeling the heat from the ceramic cup seep into your palms. The peppermint scent is stronger now, warm and soothing. You lean your head back and look up at the ceiling. The stone is painted a soft off-white, and you can see the faint sweeping shadows cast by the great light above. Every 15 seconds, the room brightens just a tiny bit, and then sinks back into a cozy, amber dimness. The world outside is vast, cold, and restless. But here, in your circle of warmth, everything is perfect. You listen to the rhythmic tick-tock of the pendulum clock on the wall. It seems to be slowing down, matching the rhythm of your own heart. Your thoughts begin to drift, like the mist over the waves. You think about the ships far out at sea, seeing your light and knowing they are safe. You think about the quiet miles of coastline, sleeping under the rain. You feel a profound sense of belonging. You're the keeper of the light. But tonight, the light is keeping you. Your grip on the mug loosens slightly as your fingers relax. The steam has stopped rising, and the water is the perfect temperature. You take one last, slow sip, and then set the cup down on the mahogany table. Your work is done. The lens will turn, the light will sweep, and the ocean will roll, all while you drift further and further away. The peppermint tea is almost gone now, and the mug feels like a warm weight in your hands. You set it down on the mahogany table with a tiny hollow click. Your movements are becoming slower, more fluid, as if you are moving through water. You notice a small brass key hanging from a hook on the side of the bookshelf. It catches a stray glint of light from the fire. You reach for it, your fingers feeling heavy and slightly clumsy. The metal is cool and smooth. You walk toward the tall, narrow cabin in the shadows of the room. It is made of dark cedar, and the wood feels soft, almost velvet, under your touch. You insert the key into the lock. It turns with a slow, heavy thud click that echoes through the quiet study. You pull the door open. Inside, dozens of rolled-up nautical charts are tucked into pigeonholes. They are old, made of thick, cream-colored velvet. You pull one out, carefully unrolling it onto the flat surface of the cabin. The paper resists at first, wanting to curl back into its long sleeve. You place two small, smooth stones on the corners to hold it down. You trace the lines of the coastline with your finger. The ink is a deep, faded indigo. You see the tiny drawings of compass roses, sea monsters in the margins, and the elegant calligraphy of long-dead cartographers. You follow the line of a hidden reef. You imagine the ship that first found it, the sound of the wind in its sails, and the long, slow days at sea. Your finger moves slowly across the empty spaces of the map. The vast, uncharted blue, where the ink is thin and the paper is clean. On the top shelf of the cabinet, there is a small wooden box filled with treasures from the shore below. You pick up a large, spiraled conch shell. It is heavy and cool. Its surface is a pale sandy pink, polished by years of rolling in the surf. You hold the shell to your ear. The sound is an eternal, hollow roll. The ghost of the ocean, captured in a spiral of calcium. It's a deep, distant sound that seems to vibrate in your very skull. It's the same sound that is happening outside right now. But here, it is small and contained. Safe. You place the shell back in its box, making sure it sits perfectly on its velvet cushion. You close the cedar door and turn the key. The sound of the lock is final and satisfying. You walk toward the window again. The rain has turned into a fine, silent mist that hangs in the air like a silver curtain. The light from the tower sweeps through it, creating a tunnel of gold that reaches out toward the horizon. You watch a single drop of water on the outside of the glass. It is perfectly round, sitting still for a long time. Then it begins to move. It travels slowly downward, joining another drop, then another, creating a tiny wandering path through the salt crust on the window. You follow its journey until it disappears behind the wooden frame. You find yourself breathing in time with the drops. Slow, steady, effortless. The lighthouse is a world of its own. Here, there are no clocks that matter. There is only the rotation of the lens, the rise of the tide, and the slow cooling of the fire in the stove. You feel a deep sense of gratitude for the solid granite walls. They have stood for 100 years, and they will stand for 100 more. They hold the silence of the night, keeping the chaos of the storm at bay. You walk back to your chair, but this time you don't sit. You stop by the small bookshelf and run your hand over the leather spines. Some are smooth, some are textured like fabric, and some are cold and stiff. You don't need to read them. Just knowing they are there, holding all those words and stories, is enough to make you feel at peace. Your legs feel like they are made of lead. The walk across the small room feels like a long, pleasant journey. You reach the edge of the rug and feel the soft wool under your feet. It is a familiar grounding sensation. You look at the shadows dancing on the ceiling. They move in a slow, predictable arc, over and over again. They tell a story of light and dark, of safety, and the vast, unknown world outside. You're a part of that story now. The air in the room is perfectly still. Not a single curtain flutters. Even the fire has stopped popping, settled into a deep glowing red that hums with a low, invisible heat. You're so very tired. It is a good tiredness, the kind that comes at the end of a long, meaningful day. You feel like you could simply close your eyes and drift away right where you are standing. You find that sleep is close, but your mind still wants to linger in the warmth of the room for a few more minutes. You stand up one last time, your shadow stretching long and thin across the curved stone walls as the lighthouse beam passes outside. You decide to descend even further this time, past the living quarters. down to the very base of the tower. The air gets cooler here, and the smell of the sea becomes sharper, mixing with the scent of damp stone and iron. This is the foundation, where the granite meets the bedrock of the island. You reach the heavy iron door of the storage cell. It is cold to the touch, and the handle feels solid and frozen in time. You don't open it, but you lean your forehead against the cool metal for a moment. You can hear the ocean differently here. It's not a crash or a splash. It's a deep, rhythmic thrumming that vibrates through the very bones of the island. It sounds like the earth itself is breathing, a slow and ancient heartbeat. On a small wooden workbench nearby, there is a collection of old glass bottles, smoothed and frosted by years of the waves. You pick one up, a deep emerald green shard of glass. You turn it over in your hand, feeling its matte texture. It has no sharp edges anymore. The ocean has turned it into a gemstone. You place it back, the sound of glass meeting wood, echoing softly in the silence. You begin the slow climb back up to your chair. Each step is a conscious effort. 10, 11, 12. Back in the study, you stop by a small frame on the wall. It holds an old sepia-tone photograph of the lighthouse from 50 years ago. The waves in the picture are frozen in white peaks, and the sky is a flat, peaceful gray. You imagine the people who stood exactly where you are standing now, watching the same horizon, listening to the same wind. They are gone, but the tower remains, and the light continues to sweep. You sit back down, feeling the leather of the chair embrace you once more. You notice a small wooden box on the floor that you hadn't seen before. You reach down and pull it onto your lap. Inside, there are dozens of old postcards, their edges curled and yellowed. You pick one up at random. It shows a sunny beach from a faraway country, with palm trees and bright blue water. The writing on the back is tiny and cramped, a message of love sent from across the world decades ago. You don't read the words, you just feel the weight of the memory. You run your thumb over the postmark, thinking about how far that piece of paper traveled to end up here, in this quiet circle of stone. The fire in the stove has settled into a deep, silent glow. There are no more pops, no more crackles, just a steady, invisible warmth that seems to hum in the air. You look at the dust motes dancing in the beam of your flashlight. They move so slowly, drifting up and down in the still air, like tiny stars in their own private galaxy. You find yourself following the path of a single speck of dust as it disappears into the shadows and then reappears in the light. The rhythm of the lighthouse is now your only reality. Sweep, silence. Sweep, silence. The world outside the tower, the cities, the cars, the noise, all of it feels like a distant dream, something that happened in another life. Here, there's only the stone, the sea, and the light. You feel a strange sense of weightlessness. It's as if the tower is floating on the dark water, a silent ship sailing through the night toward the dawn. But the dawn is still hours away, and there is no reason to hurry toward it. The air in the room is soft. The darkness is kind. Every breath you take feels deeper and easier than the last. You are sinking, inch by inch, into a sea of quiet. Your hands are still now, resting on the wool blanket like fallen leaves. You can no longer feel the individual threads of the fabric, only a general sense of warmth and heaviness. The ticking of the clock seems to be getting further and further away, until it's just a ghost of a sound, a tiny heartbeat in the distance. You take one last look around the room, your vision slightly blurred by the heavy sweet weight of exhaustion. The shadows on the walls seem to move in slow motion now, swaying like seaweed in a calm, underwater current. You slowly lower yourself back into the deep green leather of the armchair. The material is cool for a fraction of a second before it begins to soak up your body heat once again. You lean your head back against the headrest, feeling the soft grain of the leather against your skin. You reach down and slowly untie the laces of your boots. The sound of the leather cords sliding through the brass eyelets is tiny and crisp. You slip them off, and your feet find the thick, soft wool of the rug. It feels like stepping onto a warm cloud. You pull the wool blanket up all the way to your chin. It is heavy and warm, a perfect shield against the world. You tuck the edges around your shoulders, creating a small, private cocoon of absolute safety. In the stove, the last of the wood has finally collapsed into a bed of glowing charcoal. The bright oranges have faded into a deep, pulsing crimson. You watch a single spark travel slowly upward, disappearing into the dark chimney. It is the last bit of movement in the room. The only sound now is the lighthouse itself. The rhythmic, mechanical click sweep of the lens above, the slow, heavy tick-tock of the pendulum clock, and beneath it all, the infinite rolling thunder of the Atlantic. You focus on the sound of the waves. It is a deep, low-frequency vibration that seems to bypass your ears and go straight into your chest. The water pulls back, a long drawing breath of salt and gravel, and then it pushes forward. A heavy, soft crash that echoes through the stone. One wave, two waves, three waves. Your eyelids feel like they are made of heavy velvet. You try to keep them open for one more rotation of the light, but they are too heavy. You let them fall. The darkness is not black. It is a warm, hazy amber, lit by the memory of the fire. You feel the tension leaving your toes, then your ankles. The relaxation moves up through your legs, into your hips, and settles deep in your spine. Your hands, resting under the blanket, are completely still. Fingers curled naturally and loose. The lighthouse is a pillar of peace in a restless world. You are the heartbeat of the tower, and the tower is your protector. The light will continue to sweep. The gears will continue to turn. The ocean will continue to breathe. you. You are drifting now. You are leaving the room, leaving the chair, and floating out into a dreamless, quiet space. The sounds of the rain and the sea are becoming distant, muffled, as if you are sinking deep into a soft silk pillow. Everything is quiet. Everything is still. The night is long, and you have all the time in the world. Sleep now. The ocean will watch over you. The light will guide the way. You are safe. You are home.